Rupert Lowe just went on Joe Rogan, and he got all this attention last week calling out Fabian socialism because that's what Keir Starmer and the dominant party in the UK is. I've been saying this for so many years because we've been reading and studying the Fabian socialists. That's not antithetical to the Rothschild interests. So if you talk about Fabian socialism, all the Hitler bots will be like, you won't talk about the. It's like it's the same interest, dummy. It's the Rothschilds that funded the Fabian socialists to come to power. It's the Milner, Fabian, Rothschild circles that creates this ideology that has destroyed England through
England
it's
too.
Slow socialism.
Tinfoil hat.
Oh, what the are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Revolution will be podcasted. All right, guys, welcome to Tinfoil Hat Live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. That's right. Go to samtripoli.gold. Use the promo code Tinfoil, and you too can get in on a price mails game for as little as $50 a month. We love Wolfpack Gold. I'm part of their Wolfpack program. I get price mail sent to me every month, and I love it. Just stacking medals, dog. Very excited to have our next guest on. One of my favorite people. I love having him on. We always go deep. You know, he loves flamingos. Who knows what that really means? It could mean anything at all. He's going to get into it. The man, the myth, the legend, Jay Dyer. How are you, buddy?
What's up, dude? Glad to be back with you guys. It's one of my favorite podcasts. Always love coming on and yucking it up with you dudes.
Dude, you're all over the place. I'm super proud of you, man. You're making it happen.
Yeah, we just did Tucker. That's going to come out Monday, so that'll be a huge one. We did
Bang Bang Pow.
We were there you spent the whole day with him. We talked for over 2 hours on a podcast, and it was full on tuck, dude.
You got tucked, bro.
Did you do it too? Did you do it too, Tucker? Did you do
I was so cucked by Tuck that he gave me a bunch of free Alps, so I'm over here alping it up.
Nice, dude.
I don't even care if it's made in India. I'm going with it. Brother, I can taste the India in my mouth right now.
Dude, I love it. Where can they find you, buddy?
You can find me at Jay Dyer on YouTube, Jay Dyer on X. You can find me at my website, jaysanalysis.com. Instagram, all the same stuff, just my name.
Love it, dude. Your website is pure fire, dude. Pure.
I had to redo it all because the code died. So,
dude, sending thoughts and prayers to the Codes family. Sorry for your loss, but you know. So I feel very. Well,
it was a Nigerian dude who wrote the code, and I wrote him, and I was like, "Can you update this code? Because I have to redo the whole website." And he's like, "No, I cannot do that for you. Sorry." He was like, "White man, you make your own code."
So what's new, dude?
Well, I don't know what you guys wanted to chat about. I got a bunch. I've been covering whole history of the OSS and CIA in terms of its origins.
Let's go, dude.
They birthed them. Did you know they birthed the Mossad? You probably knew that, but
of course, dude.
I know you knew that, but like,
of course,
maybe the audience don't know, but. Then I did a Rothschild's biography. I've been doing all kinds of crazy, deep stuff because this is an approved Rothschild's biography, right? So I like to go to the sources. I don't try to do a lot of speculation. I've been deep in this book, which is a whole history of Vatican spies, their operations. They've been compromised for a long time. So, what sounds interesting to you guys?
Wherever you want to start, brother. We're down for whatever, whenever.
Well, I think one thing that's interesting about these recent books I've been diving into is people think of Spycraft. They think of it like, James Bond and all the kind of sexy shit, but really it's all modern Spycraft is banking. It comes out of banking families. and bankers trying to like get advanced intelligence on markets. We saw in the Epstein emails there was dialogue between Jeffrey and Ariana de Rothschild, and in that dialogue they were talking about where there would be crisis points in the world and then how they could move money on the basis of the crises. And so a lot of intelligence stuff, espionage stuff, is actually about finding advanced information just to move money for insiders. And that's why Epstein was like, yeah, we'll move our money over here and then we'll leave the goy idiots with the leftovers holding the bags. But that's the same thing that the Rothschilds were doing hundreds of years ago. In the biography, they have that story of Waterloo, where they had advanced intelligence on who won Waterloo, and it ends up being a true story. And so Nathan Rothschild, when he was in London, he started dumping his stock, which made everybody think that because the Rothschilds had such a vast, accurate intelligence network that he knew what was up. So that everybody else started dumping their stock, and then when it got down to the tanked out bottom, he just started buying it up, and it was all fake. Because they already knew from the inside they had basically flipped Napoleon, because everybody that opposed them, whether it was other banking elites or whether it was Napoleon or whoever, they would just buy them off. So they had so much money from that empire, they were able to literally just buy off anybody that opposed them. So the model of advanced intelligence, gaming markets, like that's the same thing that they're doing. Fast forward to Epstein and those emails. Epstein says to Peter Thiel, I represent the Rothschilds. You know that, right? I mean, that's really what's the master manipulation that's going on behind all this is the banking elites. I mean, I know a lot of this conspiracy world kind of thinks that's true, but it's one thing to think it's true, but then it's another thing to read the approved biographies by fellow people who are not anti-Semitic, they like the Rothschilds. And to have it all admitted in the biography, you know what I mean?
I've always, well, I haven't always, but I've come to believe that the intelligence agencies are just security for the bankers.
Yeah.
Their whole job is to make sure their investments are taken care of, to create avenues, like you said, for investment and where to move banks or money around. Now, Susan Bradford that we've had on the show, she said something very interesting, and that is that Putin is the secret banker of the Rothschilds. Like when they want to hide their money, what a great place to do it is Russia, which is outside of the SWIFT system, or at least trying to be. And that's why a lot of people, they laugh when everyone's like, Elon Musk was the first trillionaire, and the Rothschilds are laughing, because they're so beyond that. Who even knows what number they're at?
Yeah, we don't know. That's the thing, we don't know. In the biography, the guy, the Morton, he wrote that in 1962, and it's not an official biography of the Rothschilds, but it's an approved biography. So he had access to their archives. And speaking of Russia, it's funny you said that, because I just shared on Twitter today. I found this in the Rothschilds archives of the website. You can go to the Rothschild archives. A lot of the stuff's public at their website. And there's an article about the history of their relationship with Russia. They were giving loans to the Russian czars in the 1800s. So Russia was already in trouble way, way, way before the Bolshevik Revolution. The czars were having a lot of trouble maintaining power. They were already in debt to London Rothschild banking interests. And so when there was laws against, rabbinic Judaism and what could do in Russia, the Rothschilds basically said, you got to get rid of these laws, or else you're cut off from the spigot. No more loans for you. So this is what caused this massive tension between the Rothschilds. And they even say that if you go to the archives that I put up on the screenshots on my Twitter today, in the archives, they say it wasn't just the Rothschilds. It was also Kuhn and Loeb, Schiff, Warburg, all the same people that we know funded the Bolsheviks were all part of the same combine of banking interests that wanted to unseat the czars. And so there was support by basically all of the international banking clique. And it's not just banking elites, it's also the Rockefellers in New York, according to Anthony Sutton. He's shown
the
all
Aryans
that as well.
Too. That's a big thing that Michael Hoffman came on and said. He's like, Yeah, I mean, if you want to believe the story of Hitler, which I don't at all, but if you want to believe what all the Hitler dick riders say, yeah, he got rid of bankers and he replaced them with Aryan bankers who were just doing the exact same thing.
Well, he went after one of the members of the Rothschilds family in Austria. So if you go back to it's helpful to go back to, and by the way, I was going to comment on the Putin thing. So basically Russia has been in a problem situation for a long time. It's possible that there's secret banking that goes on. I don't know, but I do know that Putin had, he went to war with the oligarchs in Russia, which are actually just the mafia in the 90s, and he booted a bunch of them out and they went back to Britain. And this is like Boris Berezovsky, this is Abramovich, not Marina Abramovich, but Roman Abramovich, whatever his name is. So there's a bunch of these guys that are called the Russian oligarchs, but they sided with British intelligence and they got safe haven in the UK. And that's what led to some of these mysterious unalivings that people think that Putin and the Russians were still engaged in these attacks on these people. But so there's a degree of opposition there. Whether there's secret banking, I don't know. But I mean, I'm not like a Putin cheerleader because Russia has all the same problems as the West. So it's not like somehow Russia is like a bastion of freedom or something like that. I mean, they have the same temptations of technocracy and fiat banking and all the same problems that the rest of the world has. But the Rothschilds basically had a huge hand in Russia and the downfall of Russia in the 1800s. And they did the same thing with the papacy, the Vatican papal states. So they sent 5 of their sons out. Meyer Amschel Rothschild.
Yeah.
He sent the 5 sons out to different places in Europe. This is in the biography, just not even. That's why I love going to these biographies, because most of the conspiracy stuff, like you said today on Twitter, it's like conspiracy theorists always end up being right. But we're the most hated people, even though we're almost always right about this stuff. But you can go read it in the bios. Like, they just admit all this stuff. So he sent his 5 sons out all throughout Europe. And he was even perceptive enough to know that he would have some children that were liberal and some that were more conservative. So he would send the conservative sons to more conservative places in Europe, and then he would send the liberal sons to other places like France or whatever. And they ended up doing the same model of what he did, and they would intermarry primarily with other wealthy banking families, but also he allowed his daughters to intermarry with wealthy Catholic families so that he could solidify the broadest base of support, and he tried to marry them off to the wealthiest people. So it was basically just combining dynasties. And like you said, Morton says in the biography, he says nobody even knew what assets they had because they always kept it secret. And they knew enough about espionage that they created their own code language that was a combination of Yiddish, Hebrew, and German. And nobody could crack this code because it was like 3 different languages all mixed up. So that's how they had this advanced intelligence. They had agents all throughout Europe. But to get to your point about Tiny Mustache Man, yeah, so basically we know that the BIS was set up by Alan Dulles, McKittrick, a bunch of people out of the OSS and CIA. That was set up with JP Morgan money at least, and it was originally the Reichsbank. So it was the original German pro Tiny Mustache Man bank. All the funding for a lot of that is still secret. People don't realize that the BIS and banking stuff is still secret. Just like the Rothschild assets are still secret, even according to their mainstream biography. So we don't know how much money they had. We don't know exactly what money went where. But if it's true that JP Morgan was a front in America for the Rothschild interest, which it seems like it was, then that's what helped Hitler come to power. So the fact that Hitler arrested one of the Rothschild interests in Austria, there's like 15 other Rothschilds in the rest of Europe. So it really doesn't do anything ultimately. He might have tried to, maybe he did rebel against his funders. Maybe he thought I could take this, entity down or whatever, but it still doesn't change the fact that they did, at least through JP Morgan and other interests, help him come to power.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's kind of crazy and how they've had their hand in everything. And I've been telling everybody this, and it's almost black-pilled at this point, but the Rothschilds, the international banking cabal, the Bank of International Settlements, whatever group you want to call it, they've just imploded China Russia, India, and Germany. And what do all those countries have in common? They were both economic and military powers.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to tell everybody, it looks like it's happening in America too.
Yeah, well, they had a huge push in, as we said in the past, I've been on talking about Fabian socialism, and you just saw that guy, Rupert Lowe, just went on Joe Rogan, and he got all this attention last week calling out Fabian socialism because that's what Keir Starmer and the dominant party in the UK is. I've been saying this for so many years because we've been reading and studying the Fabian socialists. That's not antithetical to the Rothschild interests. So if you talk about Fabian socialism, all the Hitler bots will be like, you won't talk about the Jews. And it's like, it's the same interest, dummy. It's the Rothschilds that funded the Fabian socialists to come to power. It's the Milner, Fabian, Rothschild circles that creates this ideology that has destroyed England through
England too.
Slow socialism.
Yep, you're totally right, dude.
And it's the same model of the American Federal Reserve Bank. So all of that stuff is not conspiracy. It's actually true. And they even brag in the book that by the 1800s, early 1800s, actually, they had already set up the international banking intelligence network throughout Europe and then eventually throughout the world. By the 1850s and late 1800s, they were already loaning basically to anybody. And the other thing that's fascinating that I think speaks to why they were so successful, right? I mean, there's sections where it talks about them like consistently reading the Talmud every day. Meyer Amschel was an avid Talmudic. He would read it out to his family like every day. But that's not the only reason they were successful. He understood that this battle was generational. And he knew that to take over Europe, it would take into the next century and beyond. So he planned ahead and he told his sons and his daughters, you have to train the sons and the daughters in this same model. He called it the family. The book even capitalized it with capital F, the family. So it's literally like a mafia structure. It's Tony Soprano's structure in microcosm, right? But expanded at international level. And they're not selling drugs. They're like loaning money. So it's like if Tony Soprano had figured out that the real money was in banking, he could have been a lot more successful. But they created,
you're completely and utterly right, dude. And it's again, I got into the Tyler Robinson shit in the last episode. I don't want to do it that much here because there's so much to talk about. But, I saw a couple people who I love, some people I don't love, commenting about his parents. If he didn't do it, why would his parents turn him in? Why would his mother say it's him in the video? And I go, if you don't understand the world of conspiracies and the world of psyops and the world of patsies, you would think that thought. But if you actually study it, you would understand that the parents are always putting their kids in these positions constantly. And let's take away conspiracies, let's take away the Tyler Robinson shit. Let's just look at Hollywood and how many of these parents throw their kids into meat grinders to the point that they come out completely damaged, drug addicts, and end up dying early. They're psychopaths, dude.
Right.
And they're all playing a game, dude. I mean, if you get into the satanic ritual abuse, I mean, it's always like a lot of time it's foster care for sure. I'm not saying it's not, or runaway kids, but there is a lot of times it is the parents that throw their kids right into the chaos. So it's like when you start talking about the Rothschild and training their kids.
Yeah.
I get it. Like my kids, I try to train them. They're wild people. I love them to pieces. They're their dad. They are their dad. And I get why my mother went nuts. Okay. I fucking get it, dude. All right. But you watch these, what they call tiger moms.
Yeah.
These tiger moms, dude, they're like on their kids. And there's some positive to that. Their kids are really
talking about Bobby Lee. He's a tiger mom.
Yeah. But you get into these moms that really are like strict with their kids. There's a lot of good to that. Their kids are very focused. I tend to find them less creative, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The creativity comes from the wild ones.
Right.
But the people who could, what I say, are intelligent, they're not necessarily smart. They're very intelligent. There's two different things. Intelligence is understanding structures. Okay. Smarts is wisdom. Okay. They're very intelligent people. You could throw them in any system and they're terminators. but they're not very creative. You know, you see that.
Yeah, Quigley says at the end of Tragedy Hope that this is really a technique that the elite learned a long time ago, and they would send their kids to boarding schools, very elite boarding schools, when they're very young on purpose, because they intentionally keep them from the mother's nurturing phase, so that because they knew that would produce a lot more psychopathy. You remember when the Epstein stuff was coming out, and it was one of the like the princess of Norway or one of those Nordic countries, and she was literally saying, "Hey, Jeff, would you take my son and train him up? Oh, by the way, we have our daughter. We want her to marry you. We want you to train her." Remember that?
Unbelievable.
So the royalty
unbelievable
kids to Epstein, dude. Isn't that crazy? And it's the same model that Maxwell did with Ghislaine, because Robert
100%.
Robert was brought in and recruited by the Rothschilds. He was one of their agents, one of their operatives. They taught him the whole corporate takeover structure. That's originally what Robert Maxwell was a corporate vulture takeover guy. And then he trained Ghislaine to do the exact same stuff. And so it's all sort of training in this alternate reality that the elite and the Rothschilds especially, the way they view the world is so different than the way that everyone else views the world. But they learned, because when Meyer was like just in the Jewish ghetto in the 1700s in Austria and Frankfurt, he wanted to be at the level of the elite, and he realized that the only way to get into that was to be wealthy. And so he started with making loans, micro loans to other Jews, and then he did micro loans to nobles, and then eventually he started climbing the ladder, and then he was eventually making loans to the German princes and Austrian princes, and eventually they were loaning it to everybody. So usury is really the way to climb this ladder.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure. That's why it was like illegal in the Bible.
Yes, they lobbied to get those laws changed because all this stuff was illegal. And so they found the right moles within government that they could compromise.
Or they funded the people to get in there, right? It's like,
they would fund the opposition all the time. In fact, they were so, I'm glad you mentioned that, because they were so perceptive at how to do this kind of intelligence stuff that whenever there would be a head of state that would begin to challenge them, they would leak disinformation that there was funding of revolutionaries, which was made up. But this would cause a panic in the market in that country. So they knew how to tank the market in a rival country so that those people would get in line. So they didn't even have to go to war. But as the mother, her name was Gutella, not Nutella, but Gutella Rothschild, the matriarch, she said, "No war happens in Europe unless my sons decide so." That's in the biography. They brag about that. But by the mid 1800s, they were the official gold brokers and bankers to the Bank of England and the royals, the Queen. At that time, Queen Victoria, right? So when people are always trying to figure out, is it the British royals or is it the Rothschilds? Like, they were the bankers to the British royals. So they ran the Bank of England.
And they bred with them.
I'm saying they're the ones that are using the British Empire. The British Empire becomes a cutout for them, I think.
But wouldn't you just say the Bank of England is the Rothschilds? Just
pretty much, because the way
Bank of International Settlements,
the way he characterizes it is, they're the brokers. They're the ones basically setting the international standards. In fact, the biography credits them for creating the international banking standard that we have.
100%.
So all international banking today operates on the model that they set up in the 1800s. Originally, it was called the Paribas system in France, but eventually it just took over. So the gold standard, all of that stuff from the 1800s is really just the Rothschild standard that they set up, which is pretty crazy.
Ordering pants online, it gets real hard. But guess what? Our good friends at Jack Archer, they got it down nice and smooth. You're looking for a nice pair of pants? I'm wearing some Jack Archer underwear. The best in the business. Let me tell you about Jack Archer. Ordering pants online can feel like gambling. Will they fit? Won't they fit? Will they look the same after a few hours? Finding a pair that works shouldn't require all that guesswork.
Jack Archer's Jet Setter Tech Pant is the everyday pant made to look polished, feel comfortable, and work across every part of your body. Instead of needing different pants for work, travel, and weekends, the Jet Setter Tech Pant is designed to do more with one pair. Built for the office, the golf course, date nights, and everything in between. Made with flexible fabric, you can stay comfortable and put together whether you're sitting at the desk, walking through an airport, or heading out to dinner. They're also wrinkle resistant, stain repellent, and machine washable, so you can spend less time worrying about your clothes and more time doing what you actually want to be doing. Pull them out of a suitcase and they're ready to wear. Spill coffee on them, you just wipe it off and you keep moving. The best part, they won't look saggy and worn out like other pants do. These pants hold their shape day after day, wash after wash. The Jet Setter Tech Pant has over 6,000 five-star reviews because it's exactly what guys are looking for. A comfortable, polished pant they reach for no matter what they're doing.
Right now, Jack Archer is offering our listeners 15% off your first order with promo code GetJack. Go to jackarcher.com, use the promo code GetJack for 15% off your first order, and see why thousands of people have given the Jet Setter Tech Pants 5 stars. That's jackarcher.com, promo code GetJack for 15% off your first order. I love this idea, and I hope you do too. Guys, listen, man. I keep telling you that we've been telling you this for years, man. They're going to just keep printing money, and your money's going to be worth less and less. And that's why you have to solidify your cash. And the best way to do that is precious metals. And there's no better place to go than our good friends at Wolfpack Gold. That's right, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Let me tell you about Wolfpack Gold. If you're paying attention, you know that de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver has been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all things precious metal. Veteran owned and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small, and you can even roll over your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, think again. With the Wolfpack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. Wise Wolf Gold and Silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. So go to samtripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. And remember, in the world of bulls and bears, be the wolf.
No, they say that early on. They say we just, in fact, the only time that in this biography a ritual comes up, and they don't, it doesn't explain what the ritual it is. It just says there was this ritual where anytime the sons or daughters were going to be married, they would have to come to Frankfurt. They participate in a ritual, and the matriarch, Meyer's wife, Gatella, she would have to approve of the marriage, and they had to be instructed in these sort of secret things. So it doesn't say what it was, but my suspicion is that it would probably be something Kabbalistic, because they were avid practitioners. I mean, they read the Talmud every day. So that's also the principles for how they would do usury and how they would do these operations. Because I kind of think that the Talmud, I mean, it's a lot of things, obviously, but it's also a way to kind of run a secret society, religious, genetic cult. And he even says in the first 5 pages that they also were very avid practitioners of incest. So they would marry very closely to the bloodline, as you said. I'm just saying it admits your point that yeah, they would marry within typically if they could. The only way they would marry out was if it was a super wealthy family. Like, and they're deciding who the kids marry. Like it's not
there's no free will in that.
There's no love. Yeah, right.
It's like, this is what's best for the family. And
exactly.
You go back in the past, families would marry their daughters off to whoever had the most goats, because that was economically the best thing to do. Now it's all like feeling in love, and everyone's getting divorced all the time.
Or if you're Muslim, you marry them to the goats.
Yes, or if you marry them to the goats. Okay. So So I completely utterly agree with every point of what you're saying. It's like it's kind of crazy how powerful they are, dude.
I
And
mean, I didn't even expect it to be this intricate. I thought, okay, yeah, they had a lot of wealth and they probably loaned, but I didn't realize how strategic it was. That's what people don't understand is how strategic it was. They even got into the papacy hardcore in the 1830s. So Gregory the 16th was the Pope in the 1830s. They made massive loans to him. And I'm not a fan of the papacy, but this is actually how the papacy, according to the biography, eventually sort of waned. They had to reach out. They were losing money and influence because if you don't know, the papacy is also a geopolitical state, right? It's its own sovereign entity, it has been for a long time. So it's not just a church, it's also like an international state like Washington, D.C. or Tel Aviv or whatever. It's its own city state. So they used to have a standing army. They used to have all these things, and they were losing money, and so they had to reach out to the Rothschilds to get loans. And this eventually put them in deep into debt. And by a few decades, the papacy lost the papal states because Karl Rothschild was the son that went to Italy, and he basically took over the entire Italian peninsula. It says on page 91. Ultimately through a lot of these loans to the papacy. So they took over all these things. They had their own mail system. They had their own courier system that was actually better than the state-run mail system.
of course, if you have all the money in the world, you can make the best system happen.
Exactly.
It's
They set up, as we
unbelievable.
said, the worldwide gold credit system in the 1800s that became the norm. And he even argues that they're kind of the representation of the end of feudal man and feudal lords, and they become the banking lords. And so if you read like Spengler, he talks about transitioning out of the feudal period into what he calls homo economicus, or economic man. So this is the period when we get man seen as primarily an economic unit, and this is why monopoly capitalism isn't ultimately antithetical to Marxism, because these are the same people funding Marxist socialist movements, the Rothschilds, and so both systems, whether it's monopoly capital or Marxism, socialism, they see human beings really as just interchangeable economic material
Cattle.
units. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've said, every single election is either a neocon Zionist or a progressive Bolshevik.
Well, you know what I didn't know either, that what came to the fore in the biography was that they knew in the 1800s that if you really wanted to run shit, you got to control both sides of left and right.
Yep.
So they understood left-right dialectics, I think probably from Kabbalah, way before there was such a thing as American left and right geopolitical stuff, right? So they understood you have a circle, the magic circle, and then you can just control the discourse within the circle. People aren't even allowed to ask the questions outside of the circle, right? So we can't even question the uniparty or the duopoly party system because that's not even allowed as a question. They had figured that out a long time ago, that you could control the two polarities. And Meyer said he figured that out from his sons. He's like, I'll just send the liberal sons to the liberal countries and the conservative sons to the conservative countries. And they can control both sides of that dialectic. And they said that they didn't care about any specific conflict, right? So there's a war going on in Spain. There's a war going on here in Europe or France, whatever. They didn't care about the sides of the conflict. They always had the long-term attitude and how to move the money on the basis of the conflict. And this is really how the stock market works. I think we've all seen this even with Trump in the last few years with crypto. Like Trump and the administration has realized that if they say, oh, the Iran war is still on, the whole market dips, Bitcoin dips, you buy the dip, then you say there's a peace deal, Bitcoin in the crypto market goes back up, then you say the war's back on, it dipped. And so you can just keep doing this. I mean, as well as the whole meme coins or Ponzi scheme too.
Yeah.
But it's so they figured this out a long time ago is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree with you, dude. It's like crash the market, buy everything cheap. It's how he made his money early on with the Bank of it buying all the the British pounds or the notes that you said. Like, oh, dude, we lost to the French, knowing that we won. Crash, burn, bang, buy them up, pennies on the dollar. Now you control the pound. And so my question to you is this. There was this whole thing about George Soros pulling one on the Rothschilds. You remember when he basically bet against the pound and it crashed and he made all that money? Do you think that's real? Do you think he really beat the Rothschilds on that one? Because he's like banned from Israel.
That's a good question. I mean, there could be. I'll give you an example. There's something similar to this that happened in the 1800s. I'll make the story quick. So there was a guy who used to work for the Rothschilds, who was a Jewish guy named Perret, a French guy, and he worked with them for a few years and figured out all their tactics. Right. This is one of the most interesting chapters in the book. This is like actual Game of Thrones level shit here. So he figures out their whole system in the 1850s. He steals 1 million francs, French dollars from them, goes off and links up with their number one rival in France, this guy named Achille Fould, Fould. And they get this idea to start a rival bank to the Rothschilds in France, and they call it Credit Mobilier. And I didn't know this was this old either, but they had the idea of customer-owned stock. So anybody that took out loans from Credit Mobilier, whether you were a baker or a head of state, you could actually get shares in the stock. And this actually worked pretty good, such that eventually Credit Mobilier was a challenger in France to the Rothschilds. They then expanded that to other countries. They were trying to do the same thing in Italy. And this is during the period of Napoleon's nephew, Napoleon III. And so Napoleon III was funded by Credit Mobilier, and they actually started winning, and they were beating the Rothschilds in a lot of markets. And then the Rothschilds figured out that if they could go to certain heads of state that were and buy them off, they could get the state to prosecute Credit Mobilier. So they finally found a head of state that could imprison the original Perrier guy for stealing that first $1 million.
Oh my God.
And so when he
dirty.
And then when he went to prison, get this is the crazy part. He went to prison and Credit Mobilier stock collapsed. It destroyed the whole company. And then the Rothschilds set up their version of the customer-owned stock bank, their version of it, the People's Bank, they called it, right? So this is when socialism was getting popular. And even though the Rothschilds would at times fund socialist, communist, Marxist types of movements, even if something came up as a rival, they would just buy it off and sink it stock-wise. Well, they would sink it and then buy it off and then create their own version of it. So, but the reason that they didn't win, according to the biographer, was that the Perrier guy and the Fool guy, they only understood it in terms of tactics in the immediate. They didn't create offspring that would think generational. And he says that that's why they ended up losing, is that if they had thought about other people and their sons or daughters running it, they might have been able to do it. But in this case, it was actually because the Rothschilds had a family and religious, so bloodline and religious commitment, which is the tightest binds you could even have for any human being.
Yes.
That actually beat out the socialist ideology of Credit Mobilier in the long run. Because if you're a socialist, if you think about it, you're probably an atheist most of the time. And so you're only probably going to live for the here and the now.
Yep.
And although we can criticize the Rothschilds and Talmudism, at least the elements that are there from the biblical ideology of having a family and having offspring and teaching the next generation, right, to run your shit, that's going to win in the long run. If you are accepting an ideology of materialism and immediacy and all that, that's why socialism can't win in the long run, because you're only really committed to yourself and this vague idea of the collective. But if there's no God, if there's no afterlife, if nothing matters, why do I give a shit about the collective, right? I don't really care about that.
Yeah, it's why, like, there's part of me that if you get to a certain age and you haven't had kids, you shouldn't be able to vote on certain things.
I think you're on the that's the point. I mean, yeah, exactly, because you don't think beyond
in the
yourself.
future. Yeah, you don't think beyond your last breath. You're just like, what makes me feel good? Because you're putting your parental instincts.
Yeah. It's like the guy who gets a credit card at 80, and just runs up the debt, right?
Exactly. You're like,
well,
I'm gonna die.
Sam, think about the way you think about life with having kids that you love. versus like the way Chelsea Handler thinks about her life.
100%.
I mean, it's night and day difference, right?
100%.
And it's going to affect how you operate in the world, obviously. So same principle here. It's like, yeah, the Rothschilds are an evil family, but at least they understood, like, if we're going to make this plan work, like, we've got to have long-term generational thinking. And that's one of the things that most people today, nobody thinks this way. Nobody. Like, unless you have some kind of religious commitment. And I'm not calling you out, because like, it's not, obviously some people can have this thought process, even if they're not religious, they care about their kids, but it's foreign to most people today, especially like Gen Z, people like that who don't want to have kids and all this kind of stuff. Like, you're just basically solidifying your bloodline dying out, and you not having, progeny that can run shit. I mean, it's so insane, like you said, with these,
so insane, dude,
that you can convince women to hate their offspring. That's crazy to me.
The propaganda is so strong, and I've always said this: if you want to know how to live your life, watch the elites. They're telling you to get smaller houses, smaller cars, your environmental footprint, while they're living in mansions on the fucking beach,
having tons of kids,
taking planes to go grab cheesecakes in France, like private planes. They're having tons of kids. I mean, it's so insane that people can't see this. Like, what is really going on? And then all the people that told you about the environment are now building data centers. All the people trying to tell you about love and respect are building fucking hotels in Gaza for Israel. I mean, it's like, just don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do.
Yeah.
That's the most important fucking shit.
Remember Ted Turner?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people think Ted Turner was, the money and the funding behind the Georgia Guidestones, which said we got to keep the population below.
I never knew that.
I mean, we don't know. I don't know if that's confirmed. I'm just saying a lot of people have speculated that it seems he's the most likely candidate in Georgia, especially, to have been behind that. But I don't know that for sure. But whether he was or wasn't, like, he was very vocal about, we need to drastically reduce population. People need to stop having kids. He was a huge supporter of Green Agenda, World Wildlife Foundation, which is just a front for depopulation. Meanwhile, he's like the ultimate example of what you're saying. He had like 6 kids. Like, he's flying around like, Air Force One level stuff. Everything that you're saying is exemplified by the way these people live, which is night and day with what they say. But also, one thing I want to bring up too, I don't want to change subject, but people probably heard of the famous British Prime Minister Disraeli. I didn't expect this book and when I read Quigley, he talks about Disraeli being a Rothschild operative, but I didn't expect that. No, the Rothschilds actually bragged about it. They're like, yeah, he was our operative. And the way that we got into government, because you couldn't be in government in Europe in the 1800s for the most part. So they realized they would have to get the laws changed to where they could do that. But because Queen Victoria didn't like, she notoriously said, I'll never have a Rothschild or in the House of Lords or House of Parliament, lower house and upper house. So what they did was they said, all right, we're going to have to do something big for the Queen to get Nathan Rothschild in the House of Lords. So what they did was they got Disraeli, their operative, their agent, to eventually secure the Suez Canal for the Queen, for the British Empire. And once they did that, she said, okay, you can become a lord. So he got into Parliament and then started pushing for all the laws, right, that would help the Rothschild family that they've been waiting for this whole time.
It's unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy,
dude?
But they had to get the Suez Canal for the British Empire, and they bragged about that. So this is almost like you read James Bond stuff or you read Ian Fleming and you think, this sounds crazy, but the real James Bond stuff is banker shit. That's what's so crazy. It's like the real world is this stuff, but it's not what you think. It's bankers and it's giant loans to the Vatican and like just getting people in debt. That's the real espionage world.
Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our good friends at Ultra. Have you ever noticed that nicotine actually really seemed to hurt your workouts? Like less pump, worse recovery, racing heart, and then the inevitable crash. Okay. A lot of people think nicotine is a good pre-workout because it's got vasoconstrictors. It actually works against the pump you're trying to get. That's why I switched to Ultra Pouch. I've been using them for about a month, and I love that they're 100% nicotine free and caffeine free. I still get focus and smooth energy I want, but without the jittery or crash afterwards. I usually pop one in about 5 minutes before the workout and before I sit down to work, and it helps me lock in. My favorite flavor is watermelon, because it reminds me of just how much I love the taste of watermelon. It just tastes exactly like it, okay? They have cool mint, wintergreen, tropical, watermelon again, and blue raz. Let's go. If you want to try them again, go to takeultra.com and use the code tinfoil for 15% off your first order. And when they ask you where you heard about them, let them know our podcast sent you. It really helps support the show. There's a lot of talk. We've had, recently had Mel K on talking about the OSS and that role in Nazi Germany, all that stuff, the bringing over that. Where would you like to begin?
Well, so I did a deep dive on this book called The Old Boys, which is written by a guy named Burton Hirsch, who was in the Council on Foreign Relations. So he's in the CFR, and this is just a history of the origins of the American deep state, you could say, the CIA, the OSS. And again, like what we don't think is that we think of intelligence people or the CIA being like, oh, they're protecting America from democracy. I know you've had John Kiriakou on, and I had him on the other day, and then I was on his podcast as well. And we just kind of, I went through all of these questions, and I'm like, let me just ask you, like, do you think that, intelligence operatives are really just working for like private bureaucratic banking and corporate interests? Yes, absolutely. Right. Basically every question I asked, he's like, yeah, that's it. Every conspiracy query I had, all my favorite pet theories, I asked him all of these questions, and he's like, yeah, of course. It's all that. So again, the conspiracy theorists are right as usual, but I didn't expect this mainline book to say you go back to World War I and Woodrow Wilson. This is when we get the Federal Reserve. This is when we get, again, that Rothschild banking model for the U.S. The book admits that, yeah, Woodrow Wilson had a handler named Colonel Edwin Mandell House, and Mandell House was working at the behest of the British banking elites. I wonder who that is. That's obviously the Rothschilds, to get eventually a Keynesian model of economics for America in terms of their banking structure with a private central Federal Reserve Bank. And that's exactly what Keynesianism and Fabian socialism is. For the Fabian socialist, John Maynard Keynes is their like chief sainted, greatest economist. Even though Keynes himself wasn't a member of the Fabian Society, his economic principles are what they prefer, what they promote. And so when we get the Federal Reserve at the behest of these banking elites, it is literally that Fabian socialist model. Again, that's not antithetical to Zionism or whatever, because it's the same family behind that. In fact, there's an entire chapter in the Rothschild biography about how adamant they were in terms of obtaining the land of Israel over many decades for the purpose of setting up a future Jewish state. Now, to be very precise, it's not just the Rothschilds behind this, because originally it was the three original founders of Zionism. You have Moses Hess, Theodor Herzl, and Chaim Weizmann. They all were political Zionists. Moses Hess is the first ideologue. He's known for creating the idea of utopian socialism. So even though Karl Marx was a Marxist socialist, Moses Hess is actually the creator of utopian Marxist socialism, because Marx wasn't necessarily utopian. He thought maybe it could win in the end, but also it might not. There's no way to know. But Moses Hess, who was a rabbi, thought that it would. And his difference with Marx and others was that he thought, no, it'll be a Jewish-centric global socialist order out of Jerusalem. And he says, we'll use the Masonic lodge. He says it in the book. I read the book right here. He says, we'll use the Masonic lodges. And there's this great section where he says, I've been talking to the Rothschild brothers, and I might win them over. I think they're on our side. This is in the 1860s. Okay, so nobody even knew what Zionism was in the 1860s, but they were already planning this, trying to get the Rothschilds on board because they had so much money. And initially, Edmund Rothschild, who was the one that was most interested in this project, he wasn't interested in political Zionism. He thought it's not good for our family if you get too political openly. It's not popular right now. So what he did was, I'm going to buy a bunch of sections of land throughout Palestine, and it was called the Palestine Project, right? So these people act like there's no such thing as Palestine.
Yeah, it's
Rothschild,
so hilarious. Great point,
Rothschild
dude.
himself named it Palestine Project. What are you talking about?
I mean, great point, dude. Let me ask you something. I'm sorry to cut you off because you're cooking with gas, but
Sure.
So, I've had guests on that talk about Israel and then the Greater Israel Project. And it's something I want to ask you because you brought up the Talmud many times.
Mm-hmm.
There are those who believe that those, and I'm one of them, and I'm fine if you say I'm wrong. I'm open-minded, keep my head on a swivel. That the Greater Israel Project is basically ancient Babylon. If you study the maps, they look exactly alike. And that Israel is kind of the beginning of the storming the beach and then moving out to all that. Ancient Babylon went higher to the north than the Greater Israel Project, but it's pretty much the same thing. And when you get into the Talmud, and I've tried to look this up, I've been told this before, but I can't find where it says it, so I could be wrong. But I remember seeing it, is that it's called the Babylonian oral history of the rabbis. That's what the Talmud is called.
Yeah,
Am I wrong on that?
No, that's what it is. It's when the Jews were in captivity
Yes.
in Babylon. At least the claim is that what's in the Talmud is the oral traditions as well as the written text and the written traditions from that period. That's when it supposedly dates from.
Okay. So does this kind of get beyond Judaism, in my humble opinion? Like, I bought the Torah because I had a guest on tell me, like, it's the blueprint of how and he's a Christian, but he's like, the Torah is the blueprint of how the universe operates. I'm not trying to get into a religious argument, but is the Torah different than the Talmud? And the Talmud and the Zohar, like, there's some crazy shit in there. Like, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they're all different. So basically, the Torah is the first 5 books of Moses. That's the religion of the Hebrew people when they're coming out of Egypt, right? And it becomes codified in these books. And from the Christian perspective, we think that was proto-Christianity. So we don't believe that Christianity is the same thing as, nor that it comes out of rabbinic Judaism. So what you're talking about with the Talmud is known as rabbinic Judaism, and that's something that forms over time. First of all, when the Jews are in Babylonian captivity, this is like 586 BC, they go into Babylonian captivity. The idea from their perspective is that they recorded and kept all of these traditions of the rabbis, some written, some oral. So it's basically the Bible plus a bunch of all of this other stuff that, from the Jewish perspective, from the rabbinic perspective, you don't start with Torah. Everything is read through the lens of the Talmud, right? So you can't just go to Torah and try to figure it out. You have to read it through the oral tradition of the rabbis that's also recorded in the Babylonian Talmud. But the Talmud doesn't become codified until the 4th, 5th, and 6th centuries post-Christianity, post-Christ. And many rabbis and many Jewish scholars today will admit, I got a whole shelf of it over there, they admit that really the Talmud itself and the rabbinic tradition formulates itself in opposition to early Christianity, right? So they formed their Bible, which doesn't have some of the books that like the Catholic and Orthodox Bible has. They codified their rabbinic traditions in those centuries, partly to set themselves off against the rise of Christianity. So that's why rabbinic theology has always had this innate hatred and disdain for Christianity, because it formulated literally out of opposing Christianity. So for us as Orthodox Christians, we think that real Old Testament Hebrew religion is proto-Christianity. It's not rabbinic stuff. In fact, if you read the book of Jeremiah, for example, Jeremiah, during the Babylonian captivity, he's being persecuted much like Christ is persecuted. Jesus has parallels with the way that he talks about the Pharisees versus the way Jeremiah talks about the scribes and the lawyers. He says they pervert the text with their oral traditions. Jesus, when he's debating with the Pharisees, says the exact same thing in Matthew 23, that the Pharisees, that's the rabbinic tradition of that time, they're in opposition to what he says because Jesus's message wasn't immediate political success to overthrow the Romans. And they wanted the message of, no, I want to hear how do we overthrow these Romans and enslave these dumb goy and rule the world. So they wanted a temporal wealth power message that they thought they were promised. That's not what Jesus said in his first advent. So that's partly why they rejected him, and that they were offended that he opened the covenant up to the Gentiles. They thought all those Old Testament passages meant, no, the Gentiles will be subject to us by a king who will put them under his foot. Jesus saying, no, the Gentiles will subject themselves when they repent and come into the church. That's the Christian understanding of the Old Testament. So your question about the Babylon, or about the land, they look at the promises to Abraham in Genesis 12, 15, 17, 22, that he would be given this land. And originally, in the Christian perspective, I'll make this quick.
No, I'm loving it.
So if you go back to Genesis, there's a story of Melchizedek, this priest who's not a Jew, he's a Gentile priest to God in this land called Salem. Later on in the Psalms, David identifies this land of Salem as Jerusalem. Okay, so before the Canaanites had taken the land, and that's who they take the land from, it was previously some group of righteous people that were priests to the one true God that had the land at some point taken from them, the Canaanites. At that point, with Joshua and David, etc., in the Old Testament, they are told to retake that land from the Canaanites because it was originally the possession of the righteous. So they retake that land. And according to Romans 4 and all the history of the church, whether it's Armenian Orthodox or whether it's Orthodox or Catholic, everybody interprets this to mean that land was a type, a symbol of the gospel conquering the rest of the world in a spiritual way, not physical armies and conquest, but the preaching of the gospel, converting people to Christ. So once Christ came, the land promises are fulfilled. Because they don't believe in Christ, they still think those land promises are promised to them. So in that sense, yeah, I think that they see all of that as theirs due to that inheritance. I'm sure they probably want more. They want the whole world, dude. The world is mine, right? The world's not enough, right? James Bond stuff. So that's why they have the idea that it's not just Oded Yanon and Greater Israel Project. It's that, but also the rest of the world.
So the righteous have the land, the Canaanites come in, they take the land over, and then they take the land from them.
Yeah, God tells David and Joshua to take back that land because the Canaanites were wicked. They were doing all kinds of butt stuff and everything to do with like a lot of butt stuff, a lot of fluids, bodily fluid stuff, human sacrifice, all of that. So they're supposed to get rid of that. But they don't, because they, as we know from the Old Testament, they fall prey to the exact same things. They have this tendency, as Jeremiah says, to also practice these things. So when you mention things like the Zohar and that kind of stuff, that's the mystical side of Judaism that supposedly traces back to these periods. Nobody can actually prove, or no, we don't actually know. I mean, this could have been invented by a medieval rabbi, right? Especially stuff from the Zohar. That's like medieval Judaic Kabbalistic stuff. A lot of it is. So these magical esoteric practices are blends of ancient pagan religion, Babylonian religion, Neoplatonism, ritual magic. I mean, you've got like treatises and Kabbalists on how to make ritual magic medallions. I mean, there's nothing like that in the Bible. So these are importations from a lot of different religious traditions. Exactly. They're not going to come out and say, yeah, we do human sacrifice.
100%.
But there are oral traditions that we know from the Bible where Jeremiah says, you guys have fallen into sacrificing your children to Molech.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that's why there is this confusion, I think, about what Talmudic religion actually is.
So, but can I ask you briefly, what do you say? I mean, the defense I always hear when I pick out problematic passages in the Talmud is that it's this dialogue between the rabbis, and that a lot of it was later
Right.
disputed and what would you say, even I mean, they go so far, according to the defenses I hear, to even disavow those passages and later like codification of law. What do you say to that response?
Well, people think of Judaism as something like Christianity, where it has like these dogmas. It's not like that. And there have been times when certain famous Jewish theologians, like Maimonides, like he tried one time to set out like the basic principles of what you have to believe to be a, but even that didn't really catch on because there's tons of atheists, there's tons of reformed who are basically atheistic, that whole movement coming out of people like Spinoza. So, and I've had a lot of debates with various people of different flavors. I had a debate one time with a well, he was a part of Chabad, right? And he was like out on the street, like doing stuff. And we got in this street debate one time. This is some years ago. And he made the point that in their tradition, I think he was telling the truth about this. He's like, in our tradition, we don't like find the one principle that we're all supposed to follow. In Judaism, you go to if you have a question, you go to your rabbi, that's it. You don't go to another rabbi to check that guy. So the religion is not actually codified around objective principles that everybody's bound by, right? Like in Orthodox Christianity, we have the Nicene Creed. Everybody has to follow the creed. But there's not that in Judaism because there's this weird flexibility that you can kind of make it what you want within the scope of Judaism as long as you're quote a Jew.
Yeah.
So there's a strength and a weakness in that, right? I mean, in other words, there's a strength in it in that that's why you have people who have a Jewish ideology, which a lot of times it's just their descent. But at other times it's a religion. And some people don't know, well, is this an ethnic thing or is it a religion? Well, it's neither and it's both because it has this sort of flexibility.
100%, dude. It's like how many of these atheists are pro-Israel, pro-Zionism? You're like, but you don't believe in God. But
Exactly.
yeah, you're pro-Zionist. How is that? How does that mental gymnastics work?
Well, that's because that's just I think Hoffman, I think you guys had Hoffman on. Hoffman calls it a religion of self-worship.
Yes, dude. Yes, dude. Yes. All right. So we're going to get into, I listen, I think it's all Babylonian, dude. That's what I've thought from the beginning. It's like when you bring up, why do they hate Christ? I've said this before, because Christ stops sacrifice. Like he's like, stop sacrificing, you piece of shit. He didn't say that, but stop sacrificing.
He did say it. He basically did say that, yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't call him a piece of shit. So that would be
he called him he called a brood of vipers and snakes and demons.
Okay.
So it might as well be
close enough. And they get mad at that. They're really angry at that. And I said this on Rogan years ago. The old gods want to come out and play. They're tired of sitting in the back. They want to be worshipped. They want sacrifice, dude. And this is why Christianity is so hated right now, is that the power structure is Babylonian, and it bleeds into other things, like why is there a black cube in Mecca? It's like bleeds into all this other shit, and they want sacrifice. And Jesus and his teachings are like, no, we're not doing that, dude. It's like, no more. That's not how you do it. And they freaking hate that shit. And when Netanyahu's like the law, again, we're very delicate on how we say this because there's still buzzwords that get people all upset. But when Netanyahu is like, Israel loves the Christian, as they're bombing Christian churches, it's like insanity to me. And we just put on an episode that's just going to be audio. It goes very hard. And, and people are going to get fucking angry. Well, the people that listen won't get angry, but there's people that don't listen that will get fucking angry. And for me, it's just like right now at the Comedy Store, there's multiple comedians still doing Catholic pedophile jokes with zero repercussions. None. Flaunting it like they're saying something deep and heavy and can you believe I said that? And it's just acceptable shit. It's just acceptable shit. And my whole opinion on everything is, and I'll defend this to the day I die, is I don't believe in protected classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe you're ever going to fix anything if you bring your fucking feelings, man.
Mm.
If you bring your feelings into it, you're never going to fix it. Ever. Ever. And it's because nice people just want to live their life, raise their families. Some people raise their dogs, whatever, raise their family, set the kids up for the future. Evil never stops. It's unfucking relenting. And it's like you just said, and they pass it on to their traumatized kids who play fucking ball with everything.
What's the subject that you said people are going to get mad at the thing you did? What was that subject matter?
He goes much harder on the Jays.
Oh,
Much harder. Very, very deep on it, dude. And, you know, I think we're getting to a point where that's not as taboo, but with certain circles, that is taboo still. And because you're dealing with generational trauma and you're dealing with a power structure. And I don't blame anybody. It's like when people in California are asking for reparations. And this one guy's like, if you did it with inflation, it'd be $50 million today. I'm like, if I was you, I would shoot for the stars too. I would just yell out a number that's so fucking insane that like they'll come back to 20 million because you just said 500 million. Like, dude, why wouldn't you? I would love it if you said something about Armenians and I could call you a bigot.
mm-hmm.
That would be great. That would be the greatest thing ever. I would never, ever get any criticism ever and actually to have to take a look at my behaviors and my actions. I could just call you a bigot and just move on. It's because it's just bigotry. And it's just like, when I hear people go, people hate us because we're successful, it reminds me of Carlos Mencia when he was getting called a joke thief. And he's like, people just hate me because I'm successful. It's like, that's not true at all, dude. At all. I mean, Asians are crushing it. And everyone loves Asians. I mean, they're just absolutely crushing it. Nobody's like, oh, these fucking Asians. Fucking, you know, nobody's saying it. It's just like, what are your actions and what are your behaviors?
Yeah.
And people have the right to call you out because we've been, white people have been curb stomped so badly.
Yeah.
That they have suicidal empathy. They literally vote against their own best interest in hopes of not being called a bigot.
Yeah. Remember Netanyahu when he got caught on camera saying, oh, I've been reading this Strauss book on how we've been at war with Rome forever. And he's like, I'm not going to lose to Rome again. He's referring to Rome destroying the temple in 70 AD. And what he meant by that was he sees the West and Christianity as Rome and Edom, right?
100%, dude.
And he's like, that's why we're going to do everything we can to try to ensure that we will never lose that battle again. So that's the attitude here. And again, it's not antithetical to what you're reading in the Rothschilds because that's what's in the Talmud. That's what Meyer Amschel Rothschild was using as his sort of playbook. It's like a playbook, right? To run shit. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's not, by the way, it's not all just, again, this might make some of your audience mad, but I mean, I think it's true. By the way, there's a bunch of rabbis that were in video clips saying Islam is the broom of Judaism. That doesn't mean that they have to like it or they agree with every principle of it, but they don't mind Islam sweeping through Europe and coming into the West because that's a preparation in their mindset for eventually everybody accepting a form of Noahidism. In fact, some of the rabbis even say that Islam is kind of a version of Noahidism, even though Muhammad himself went to war against Jews. They don't even care about that. They just see that it's a powerful weapon against Christian Western civilization. They're very adamant about that. They brag about that. And then you have, for example, when Edmund de Rothschild was buying all of the land in Israel, nobody ever talks about who he bought it from, who was selling it to him. That guy's just as much a traitor. It was the Sultan. It was the Turkish Sultan who owned and controlled Palestine in the 1800s.
100%, dude.
And so you've got these Islamic leaders who, by the way, I was watching a video on Al Jazeera. It was a great documentary video explaining the Rothschilds' role in the founding of Israel. They never mentioned that he was buying the land from the freaking Turkish Sultan, which means that your Islamic leaders were also selling you out, dummies. So it's like, Do you not see the problem here? Is like both of these things, yeah, at times they'll have a battle, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a shared enemy, which is Western civilization that they have to take down. They believe before their Moshiach, their version of the Messiah, comes.
Yep. I couldn't agree more, dude. It's absolutely like it's the great replacement theory. It's like, who's behind that? I mean,
did you know Kalergi? I've got his book. You talking about the Kalergi plan, right? He wrote it in a book. Quigley says the Royal Society elites adopted the Kalergi plan. It's clear as day. And Kalergi says, we'll destroy Europe, make everybody blend into a giant Tower of Babel blob. And he says, Big Z will win in the end. Kalergi says that.
it's crazy, dude.
But what's crazy is that people will admit it. They write it in the books. And if you cite the books, you're bad because you cited it, even though they brag about it. That's the craziest part.
Let's get into some MK Ultra shit.
Yeah, man, I've been covering that heavy lately.
Let's hear what you got, because I think it's, excuse me, so relevant right now. It's insane.
Well, the first thing that, I guess you saw these like recent hearings, and, Tom O'Neill, he was actually at these hearings. Did you see that? I didn't realize that he was there. That was pretty crazy. Yeah.
He's an interesting guy, because I asked him if it's still going on today, and he didn't want to comment on it because he's super progressive. And at the time Joe Biden was in, and he didn't want to go there. So I found that very suspect. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like with a lot of, especially if you're going to be a published author and you're going to have your books in all the bookstores, you got to kind of toe the line. So I would imagine Tom O'Neill, probably doesn't want to piss off, publishers and stuff like that. And I'm familiar with his arguments, and I think he did good work in showing that definitely with Manson, there was kind of obvious CIA connections there, but also, the counterculture Laurel Canyon stuff. I think the first time I came on Tinfoil Hat was like 7, 8 years ago with, I forget that girl's name, that stand up. And we were talking about Laurel Canyon, how that was like a big CIA, counterculture creation. And that's kind of what Tom O'Neill's book indirectly also backs up, is that a lot of that stuff was, military CIA brats that become the pop culture figures by design. But have you seen that clip of Tim Leary where you can find it on YouTube, where he's like, yeah, we created the whole 60s counterculture. That was all the CIA giving you all the LSD by design. You should watch that clip or splice it in there if you do editing.
It's so crazy.
He just admits it. Just type in Timothy Leary CIA counterculture. He just admits it. He's like, yeah, we did that. Sure. All that.
Well, Operation Long Leash, it was all CIA funded.
Tell me about Long Leash. I'm not familiar with that one.
Long Leash is where the CIA wanted to make capitalism and Western belief systems seem more open-minded to government criticism than communism. So they funded all the counterculture shit, all the great artists, like Noam Chomsky's one of them. And I love Noam.
The Congress for Cultural Freedom, the CCF, that was the CIA arts funding project. Is that something different?
Yeah. It's called Operation Long Leash.
Okay.
And they funded all of it. The counterculture, they funded the feminist movement.
Yes.
What's her, Martin Luther King, by all accounts, could have been very much a P. Diddy-like, and you push him forward because he's corrupted and controllable. And then when he starts talking about it's social economic.
A total credit for sponsoring it.
Yeah, you want to play that,
That's
Johnny?
That's the clip, yeah.
Let me just pull up a share here. Just a second. It's interesting. This is labeled a MK Ultra reunion party. I don't know if that's what they called it formerly, but here it is. All right.
Initiating the entire a total credit for sponsoring and initiating the entire consciousness movement, counterculture events of the 1960s.
Dr. Timothy Leary, the 1960s Johnny Appleseed of LSD.
On a PBS interview, Timothy Leary let his hair down and admitted that he was carrying on Satanist Aleister Crowley's work, and that the 1960s is when the plan began to come to fruition.
Well, I've been an admirer of Aleister Crowley. I think that I'm carrying on much of the work that he started over 100 years ago, and I think the 60s themselves. Crowley said he was in favor of finding your own self and do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law under love. It was a very powerful statement. I'm sorry he isn't around now to appreciate the glories that he started.
As Satan guided Crowley, Crowley declared that his writings were to be, quote, circulated among the young, end quote. Crowley predicted that America would pick up, quote, a few axioms on which a working majority can agree, a few dogmas which it could rally. Do what thou wilt, of course, became do your own thing, and if it feels good, do it in the 1960s. Timothy Leary came up with a few of his own.
He looked out at that crowd and he said, turn on, tune in,
That's right.
and drop out.
Turn on, tune in, and drop out. We're turned on, and we're tuned in, and we're very dropped out.
Turn on, tune in, and drop out.
Timothy Leary claimed that he came to the realization that he was to usher in Crowley's new age when he was using Crowley's tarot cards. Leary asked the question, who am I and what is my destiny? Leary claims that he then cut to the ace of disc. Robert Anton Wilson declared, this shows a large disc bearing the Greek letters to Megatherion, the great beast. Leary interpreted this to mean that he is Crowley reborn and is supposed to complete the work Crowley began.
Our undercover agents in Los Angeles were very cool about, and yet they did more in a very laid-back way. And it's never been as public as some of the other, the buses running around the country.
Holy
after we were fired from Harvard, that fall, every major magazine came out with a there was a cover story in the Saturday Evening Post. Dangerous. There were 3 different stories in Playboy. So that was it was the firing from Harvard plus the fact that Henry Luce was somewhere always behind the scenes doing certain things. Plus, so many people have been involved in Los Angeles.
Tim was more responsible than anybody for that.
The calculated goal of if to cause that kind of spreading?
Yeah. Well, I want to point out, though, that the picture, we all know that here and now study pictures more than they do long columns. The particular picture of this article in Time Magazine attacking our research had a scientific instrument called the experiential typewriter with all these dials, actually filled with socks, but that's all right. It had an incredibly beautiful young woman sitting, taking the test, and it had standing behind her Alan Watts, a beautiful female Hindu guru named Gayatri.
Anyway, I think, that's probably a good spot.
Johnny, will you send me that link, please?
Yeah, of course.
Holy shit.
Did you guys, you might have had him on, Sam, I can't remember. Have you had Dr. Richard Spence on?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think you have, because he had this really good book called Secret Agent 666.
Yeah, we have had him on.
Crowley being a spy, and then that's relevant because at the end of the book, he talks about Crowley used to party all the time with Aldous Huxley, and he theorizes that Crowley is actually the basis for where Huxley got the idea for the British version of MK Ultra before MK Ultra in America, because Crowley wrote these books called Drug Diaries, which was his sort of accounts of his experiences, and then other people's accounts of like what kind of entities and what they would experience doing ritual magic when they're on drugs, all that kind of stuff. So MK Ultra, there's a really good case to be made from Dr. Spence, I think, that it actually comes out of like Crowley stuff itself. But that's not the only time Timothy Leary, I've read a bunch of Timothy Leary stuff. He actually said all the time that he was like the reincarnation of Crowley, which is crazy. He wrote the foreword to John C. Lilly's biography. He's the dolphin freak that we've talked about, before. He's the guy that was doing brain chips and monkeys and giving LSD to dolphins, and he had like a fetish for dolphins. He wrote the introduction.
He was trying to get them to calm down, dude. He was trying to get them to calm down. So
he was just trying to give them a little bit of relief.
Literally, dude. He had chicks trying to hook up with these dolphins.
Yeah. He wrote Leary wrote the intro to the autobiography, and he says, in the modern West, there are pioneers of this new age of exploration. Aleister Crowley, Gurdjieff, Huxley, Alan Watts, Ram Dass. And he says nobody symbolizes this better than John C. Lilly, the dolphin freak. So he's literally telling you like the new age of cybernetic transhumanist man. That's what he says at the end of the introduction. He says this new age is pioneered by guys like John C. Lilly, who figured out how to put the microchips in the brains of the monkeys and the dolphins. So in other words, when you were asking Tom O'Neill about did they continue this on, well, if you go back to the original research on MK Ultra, the first book that was written exposing it that I'm aware of is this excellent book called Operation Mind Control by Walter Boert. We just did a whole review of this. I did this book like 10 years ago, but we did another version of. He wrote this in 1978. We just did this on my channel a couple days ago, and the last chapter is about what happened to MK Ultra when supposedly they shut it down. Right? They shut it down supposedly after the church inquiries, Senator Church and the House inquiries about MK Ultra. They didn't shut it down. They just moved it to another base and renamed it. That's what they always do. So yeah, they shut down MK Ultra, but then they just moved it to Fort Detrick and they called it MK Search and MK Delta. So this is where we get the idea of like Delta programming and all that kind of stuff. And the whole last chapter is about how it's just transhumanism. He wrote this in 1978 saying that all they're doing is figuring out how to modify humans and control humans. And the ultimate way to do that isn't drugs. I mean, drugs played a huge role in terms of LSD and all that. But the ultimate goal is to make man a cyborg and to get a brain chip or a nanotech or whatever in people's brains so that the whole biometric Terminator Skynet world could be controlled. That's the whole last chapter in 1978.
Hey Jay, did the MK Ultra? Is there any way it became the GATE program, or are they connected in any way? Would you know?
Yeah, so we did a whole episode of Sam Hyde Show on this. I wrote for that one because I was in the GATE program when I was out in San Diego. My dad was in the Navy, so I grew up in San Diego, and that was when GATE was fairly new. I think it existed before that in the 1980s, but a lot of what people are saying on TikTok, and that's a bunch of bullshit. So in one sense, yes, the GATE program was there to like find future leaders and to train and kind of indoctrinate and groom kids that could be agents of change, right? Like basically like trying to find like a future Obama or something like that.
Like Candace Owens, they say Candace and Charlie Kirk were in it, so something like that, right?
I remember Candace saying that, and I mean, I'm sure Charlie probably was, but what I'm saying is that I don't think or recall anything to do with like they put me in a hypnotic state and in a tank, and it wasn't anything like that. There was a lot of tests, a lot of IQ tests, and a lot of indoctrination into like new agey shit. Like I remember in 6th grade, I had to do a paper on like how all the world religions are the same. You know, they would assign that kind of stuff. So it's basically just spotting like high IQ, talented kids and then try to groom them. I don't think it was like there could have been somewhere other types of programs like people talk about Montauk where they were kind of bringing in kids, and that's what Stranger Things is based on. I'm sure they do that kind of stuff. Monarch was experimenting on kids. John C. Lilly says in his books he would give little kids LSD to try to reprogram them. So they did do this kind of stuff, but I don't think GATE was openly that because it's so widespread. It was all over the whole country. I think it was just looking for recruiting intelligent kids to be certain, things in government in the future to basically just to push United Nations type ideas. But that all of that type of research that they do on gifted kids does get used by the CIA and these kinds of entities for these overall sort of transhumanist projects. So it's not as sexy as TikTok was making it, but it's adjacent to that kind of stuff. That's my assessment of it.
Yeah, Johnny was in the GATE program too. I wasn't.
Who?
Johnny Woodward.
Johnny's a gator. Johnny's a gator.
Yeah, my experience was exactly the same.
When I brought this up, everybody
Johnny got molested.
Johnny was in the gay program.
The gay program, yeah. Also the gay program. But no, my experience was exactly the same. I mean, I remember I don't have a great memory of it. I remember all the shapes they would show you and the weird tests and stuff, and
they made you listen to like sounds on like a headphone and
beeps
and
and that's really the extent of it that I recall. I mean, it wasn't like you said. It wasn't any. Now it may well be that once they found people, who had some kind of remarkable psychic gifts or something that they got taken elsewhere. But I certainly did not experience that. So.
Yeah. I mean, just absolute insanity, dude. It's everything is fake and gay. Like it's just a fake projection, a demonic Babylonian projection on God's reality. And it is so foobarred, so beyond people can't even begin to understand how much of it's a lie. It's all a lie. I mean, all this stuff coming out about gangster rap being completely contrived, made up, the feminist movement completely made up. I believe OnlyFans is a Mossad or CIA fucking front. This new thing about the Patriot Front, and all my smart friends are like, it's real. It's a real movement. It's
I know, man. It's bugging me too, because I'm like, don't you guys remember Charlottesville? They did the exact same like LARPing stuff. And remember, it came out a few months ago that the guys with the tiki torches?
Yeah.
Like, it was literally gay theater kids with the tiki torches in the picture.
Yeah.
Admitted.
They just want so badly to believe in something.
Right.
That they'll push all the data out. And they'll be like, no, this time it's real.
Finally, we explain the narrative around that. Then what is the narrative around that? Because I've just seen the images and then the bus.
Now everybody's debating whether they're feds or whether they're like legit. And,
so some people really think that's like a legit national.
What I have friends of mine that I love that are just like, no, dude, and then they go, listen, if it was a fake front, why did they attack his room and spray it with bear spray? You don't know if that's real.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Why are you sitting there trying to convince yourself that these lying liars are telling you the truth? And like, I don't know what's going on with the Tyler Robinson thing, but I just know history tells me this isn't real. I mean, it's literally the exact same point for point talking point of the MKL, Martin Luther King assassination. It's the exact same thing. Guy was convicted in court. Now then later on, the fucking MKL, Martin Luther King family sues the government, and the government's found guilty of being behind the assassination. Like, what are we doing here? This is why we're never, ever going to fix anything, because you keep bringing your fucking feelings into shit. You just want to be right, not do right, and admit that maybe your side is up to no good too.
You know what? It's funny you said that, because I was looking at Twitter this morning and I was watching everybody arguing about, Patriot Front and Charlie Kirk and this and that. And I was like, and you read the comments, and my very first thought is exactly what you just said, that nobody's actually arguing from a position of like facts and history. Everybody's responses are purely emotion, purely emotive. They're just arguing what they feel they want to be the case. Everybody is arguing what they want to be the case. We have to submit to what actually is the case as best as we can figure it out. That's what everybody's problem is on Twitter, especially.
Yeah. It's crazy to me, dude. It's fucking nuts, dude. Well, Jay, I know you had a lot more to talk about, but my God, this has been a fucking insanely awesome episode.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. By the way, when do you think this one will come out? Because I want to push that Tucker episode. Do you think it'll be pretty soon or in a little while?
It will be Wednesday.
Okay, so if you guys see this by Wednesday, then my Tucker episode's already out. So go and check that out, because that episode was wild. And I'm not just saying that because it was Tucker. It was like, I went in there thinking that we were going to talk about like geopolitics and Charlie Kirk and this. And so I like crammed homework, studied for that. And we got in there and he was like, no, I don't want to talk about that. I'm tired of all that. He don't want to talk about any of that.
That's cool.
And he was like, I want to talk about transhumanism. Let's talk about Crowley. Let's talk about the occult. So we went like crazy with that stuff, which is fine with me. I just and I think they don't want the guest knowing, because they want it to be fresh. So I had no idea what we're going to talk about. I just assumed. And then it was like, oh, like satanic cult, Luciferian transhumanist Crowley. So we went for 2 hours on that. I think it will vibe very well with this episode as well.
What was your radar on him? Your personal impression. What do you think?
So I had no idea even to know what to expect the whole day. Like, I didn't know if we are going to be at a studio for 1 hour or we'd be there. So basically you spend the day with him. So you go there and you have breakfast with Tucker. You talk about everything. He gets to know you.
Are they shooting that, Jay?
You film. No, sometimes I think they might, but this one they didn't. Then they film for 2.5 hours, and then you just hang out and talk to him for the rest of the day at that. It looks like a cabin, but it's actually like a barn studio. And it's up there where like Stephen King area of Maine. It's crazy. And so for like 2 hours, we sat there just talking over breakfast about media and geopolitics and conspiracy, again, making me think that's what we're going to talk about. And then, and my vibe was that, first of all, he knows way more than he lets on. Like when he's on the show, he's always asking questions. Dude, there was no topic in terms of like geopolitics and espionage type stuff, which is what I assumed he was going to like. He knew, there was no topic I brought up he didn't know about. The only thing he didn't know about was like the Vatican espionage angle. So we talked about all that for forever. And then the interview, he's like, I want to talk about Orthodox Christianity, demons, cults, transhumanism, Satanism, Luciferianism. So we did that. And then the next 2 or 3 hours hanging out with him, it's just all the same stuff. So my read on it was that, no, I think Tucker's 100% sincere. And I'm not just saying that because I was on the show. Like, I don't agree with every point. Like I disagree with him about Bitcoin, and I disagree with some of his points about aliens, and I'm not pro-Islam. He tends to kind of be open to Islam. So, but we talked about all that. So he's very okay with people disagreeing. And, you know, I didn't get the impression that anything that he believes is insincere, because he'll flat out tell you, like, yeah, I don't like so-and-so. I think it's full of shit. I believe this is true. I think this is full of shit. Like, there was no point where I felt like he was trying to like soften his views on anything. Just super upfront. And I usually think if people are super upfront about their views, they're probably telling the truth.
Yeah, dude. I mean, listen, it's like anything. It's like people can present everything, and if it lines up with you, listen to it. And the minute they fake the funk on a nasty dunk, then you could start questioning everything.
Yeah.
That's
it's just his origin story is so strange. The way how often does
he talked about that quite a bit.
Network desperate for ratings cut loose their most valuable property? You know what I mean? I mean, it's just such a bizarre.
I think that's all true, because I was on the last episode of his Fox show. I was on that episode.
No shit. Wow.
Yeah, and I made the joke to him. I was like, "I'm sorry, I got you fired, dude." And he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I was the Klaus Schwab on that last episode." He's like, "Oh, that's right. I forgot that was you." But I didn't really get him fired. But
of course, but that's fine.
No, so if you remember, he was like gonna have Trump on, and he was pro-Trump at that time,
right?
And he said that that's a big part of it. Like, it had to do with, you know, what Rupert Murdoch and people like that who didn't like Trump versus his period of being pro-Trump. He said that was enough, but he said it wasn't just that. It was a lot of other subjects that they were covering that, you know, were not amenable to advertisers on Fox, you know, big pharma type stuff. So it was a whole combination of things, which I think is plausible. But I mean, you know, Fox has had a history of doing that with like people that
true. Yeah.
CNN too. CNN, remember
all of them.
CNN fired Lou Dobbs when he had the top show, but Lou Dobbs was like against open borders, and they fired him. So I think there's a lot of times people will make those moves over ideology. But
listen, again, all you got to wait for him to do is say something that's obviously a lie, and then the credibility starts to go. And that's usually because there's a call in, and they're activated, and they have to run that into the ground, because if they are controlled, they are there because they were placed there.
Yeah.
And it's like some people are super, like, it's like when, you know, when you go with Alex Stein and they're like, oh, he's in like a reality television. Yeah. Because he wanted to be an entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got into this, and this is why he's so entertaining, because he wanted to be an entertainer. It's not crazy to me that someone could be one thing and then realize that's not working out and realize he's really great at this thing. And that's why he flourishes, and the rest of you guys are struggling, because this is what he does. He's a great entertainer. He's a super great entertainer. So it's like this notion that because somebody did something, like I'm in SAG. And the only reason I haven't acted in forever, I got a movie getting made. I'm going to do 1 or 2 lines in it because I don't want to act. But the only reason I'm still in SAG is because I don't want anyone to have Sam Tripoli. So I keep my name. I keep paying it every year.
Dude, you're an agent because you were in that Britney Spears video. That proves you're a fake.
You remember that? Dude, how did he get that? How did he get that role? It's like, dude, my girlfriend is the producer, and they base it off a fucking comedy sketch I created.
Right, but you're one of the few people who's actually looked up Britney's skirt to see
I
that.
saw where babies come from.
And then, so the only way you could do that is if you were an operative. That's the only way.
Yeah, I got the call, dude. I'm like, dude, just go in on it. Just go in on it.
And you sold out just to see Britney's cooch, dude. That's all you sold out for.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, take my soul, dude. I just need to see the hole. My soul for a hole.
Sam has a picture perfect memory, dude. That's why. It's good.
Yeah, I could pick that vagina out of a fucking police lineup if I had to. You know? All right, Jay. Great job. As always, one of your best episodes yet, and they're all great. It was fucking fire, dude.
Hey, before you guys go, Sam, I'd like to get you back on my channel.
How dare you? Yes, of course.
I'll show you. If I show you some Britney cooch, will you come on? Oh,
done, dude. Done.
Okay.
You don't even need to show me the Britney cooch. I would just love to come on.
Also, my wife wants to do a conspiracy trivia game podcast with you three guys. If you're down to do it on her channel, she's like,
I'm down. Johnny will win. Johnny will win.
I don't.
She's
know
gotten really
that.
good at coming up with like these trivia. She did Isaac Weishaupt. They came on and they did like a conspiracy trivia, and it was a lot of fun. So if you guys are interested in that, she'd like to have you on.
Yeah, of course. No, yeah, that'd be fun.
Sounds awesome.
All
Should
right,
I set
man.
that up with Mark?
No,
just
set it up with us. I mean, I'm a fucking grown ass man, dude.
Well, sometimes you say talk to Mark. I don't know, like
that's just tinfoil. Yeah, because he keeps the schedule for tinfoil.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys so much. A lot of fun.
Anytime, all the time, dude. Appreciate you coming on. Great. All right, let's break down the episode. Great job, dude. Damn, that was fire, dude. That was a fire episode. I'm mad.
Cool.
I will never be the supercomputer that Jay Dyer is. Like
the way he pulled. Yeah, you wish you could pull books off the shelf like that and just have read.
I wish I could just have everything in my head, just like beep, 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 or just put it out like that.
He makes me want to read. What if we started a Tinfoil Hat book club? Tinfoil Hat book club ran by me on Fridays.
Didn't you try to do that for a while, Sam?
We'll do that, XG, and no one will finish a book. Hey, dude, are we still reading this book? Oh, dog, sorry, I forgot, man. My bad.
Yeah, we've been reading the same book for like 5 years. We finally get, halfway through. I could totally see that happening.
The book notes, the little sticky notes he uses, like how often? I don't even remember needed one when I was in high school. I was just like, oh, right here. Sticky notes. He must run.
Dude, and today too, when you can, because it used to be like, okay, they would design the test around the Sparks notes, so you couldn't use Sparks notes. But now that you can have AI summarize a book for you, there's, no kid is gonna with the social life is gonna read a book ever again. It's gonna be like getting the AI summary and hoping that does the job.
They can summarize your whatever episode, whatever you upload on YouTube. There's this thing that says analyze, and it'll tell you exactly what your episode was about, to the dot. Where John, I never thought about that. Why would a kid ever read a book?
It's over. Yeah, it's over. I mean, how cool that he's on Tucker, by the way. That's really cool.
Amazing. Yeah.
Tucker has, man, they really, if their goal, and this is why I still have questions, although I do like Tucker. If their goal was to diminish his influence in any way, they failed miserably at that, because he is at the height of his powers right now and influence, Tucker Carlson.
Well, him and Candace try to cancel both of them, and they just got
Candace
bigger.
Too, yeah.
They just got bigger.
Yeah.
Just got bigger.
Tucker's a good watch, though. I really enjoy it. I will be sad if because I've always said I've been partial to him, because he was one of the only guys on anything approximating mainstream media that gave Ron Paul the time of day, and at least paid lip service to his campaign. So yeah, it makes me happy to see that seems to be an okay guy.
Do you like when he does he starts the podcast just by himself? He does that usually. It's just himself, his intel.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on what if I'm there for the guest, I'll skip it, but it's because but he's gone places I never thought he would, especially like with the spiritual stuff and the sci-fi or what used to be sci-fi, with all these UFOs and shit. I really don't know what. I think he's got deeper to go on that, though, because I think we're all going to end up in this place where we think most of that's fake. But
is there any way he's controlled? there any way
Of
that
course,
Fox,
yeah, of course.
is there any way Fox sent them out and like literally was like, you're gonna do this type of
100%.
thing?
There's a way. Yeah.
That's that. I mean, it's hard to believe. That's what I said. It's just hard to believe because he seems so genuine right now.
Yeah.
Those are the best
I mean,
ones.
we just living. Hey, if you go to samtripoli.com, I'm going to be in, again, I'm going to be in Miami. I'm going to be in at
Your
Joke
mama.
World. I'm going to be in your mama, Joke World Comedy Festival in St. Petersburg, Lawrence, Kansas. Then I'm going to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Then I'm going to be in at TrutherCon in Dallas. Then I'm going to be in Skankfest for New Orleans. And then I'm going to be in Austin closing it out. All my premium content there, fucking pure fire. Okay, I'm just putting out as much content as I can with the best content creators. Johnny, talk about, I'm putting out 2 to 3 a week. I'm trying to put out 3. Sometimes life gets really busy, so I'm sorry. But Johnny, talk about Cash Daddy's Patreon.
Yeah, Cash Daddies is a podcast where we talk about with Sam, myself, and Howie Dewey. We talk about investing and finance, preparing for your retirement. And then there's a Patreon for that podcast called patreon.com or located at patreon.com/cashdaddies. And that is the place where you can find Howie's picks and where he gives out a portfolio that you can follow every year that he updates throughout the year. And yeah, there's a good community there and a Discord where people share ideas and thoughts. And every week you get to ask questions of us, mostly Howie, on the podcast. And there's a special version of the podcast with that Q&A. Patreon.
I answer any questions asked of me, Johnny. No matter what.
Yeah, but most of the questions are for
Yeah,
Howie,
they
is
are.
what I'm saying.
Hey, real quick, if you go up real quick, get on my mailing list. If you guys could get on my mailing list, go up. There it is. Get on my mailing list, dude. It breaks down everything. I'm trying to set my live streams to consistent. Sometimes because I threw my back out, I couldn't do a couple of the live streams. So I'm sorry, guys.
And we will try to do that with Broken Sim someday too. Get it on the same day. We'll see.
We are trying our hardest.
What is Godzilla is the Bible with Jack Grant? What is going on with
Godzilla's in the Bible. There's literally a talk of Leviathan that is basically Godzilla in the Bible.
Oh, well,
basically.
Learn something new every day.
Okay, Johnny. Thank you for that. Chaos Twins, I'll get you, dude. I'm talking to him. T-shirts. There we go. New T-shirt up. Let's go, dude. You got that? You got to July 31st.
That's cool, dude.
Yeah, you got to July 31st to get the 1,000th episode shirt. And I got 2 more shirts about to go up.
That looks different than the one I had. That's a cool shirt. I didn't see that one.
Oh, that looks like your face, Johnny.
No,
it does look like you.
That's the one that doesn't. Yeah, Eddie was immediately like, that doesn't look like me at all.
This one is that. Look at XG's face right there. That is XG's fucking face.
It looks exactly like XG.
He's like, hey, dog. Hey, man. Girls like my shit.
Yeah, he's doing XG face for sure. The alien's doing XG face too. It's weird.
Check out, yeah, dude.
Is that your? I'm getting pro faced.
Yeah, that's your. I'm getting pro face. You can go check out Wise Wolf Gold and Silver, Aqua Hydrogen Brown Gas. My favorite chemical free body. Take it all the time. EMF Rocks, and then Brain Supreme. On or off?
On. I'm on this week. Go get it.
Go check out World War Debate. Big things are happening. We're very blessed. Big things are happening. Okay? Big things are happening. And then finally, Sam Tripoli, go to YouTube. Support our YouTube. It's growing. That one video's doing pretty well already. So
we're in the 10.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's moving quicker than it used to. Listen, dude, we're one of the OGs of this. We used to get hundreds of thousands of views. It's so obvious that they're effing with us. So what can you do? And then finally, youtube.com/Sam Tripoli Comedy. XG.
Hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. I'm trying to reply to all the tinfoil hat comments. So be part of the community. Go hit that comment. Like
Johnny.
Yeah, find me on social media. I'm at Twitter, Johnny Woodard, on Instagram, Johnny A. Woodard. Come hang out.
All right. Hey, so honestly, I think Jay Dyer is one of the best out there. I thought he had a serious run at the Mount Crushmore. If we make it to 500 more, I think he'll make the Mount Crushmore. He should definitely be in the discussion for sure, because it's probably one of the best episodes we've ever done. It's always great when you're over 1,000 episodes and you get an episode, you go, that might be one of the best we've ever done.
Oh,
dude. We've had some bangers since we did the 1,000.
Yeah, we've been banging, dude. Nothing but bangers.
Bang.
Okay?
Bang.
Bangers. Bangers.
I also like that he and his wife have become kind of a unit. You know, they kind of have a brand together, which is cool.
I do.
Super couple. They're the conspiracy super couple. They're doing
yeah,
it.
They really. Johnny, did you see that text where that guy says we can get OnlyFans for our conspiracy smoke show?
I was out with my family, and he kept sending links to the OnlyFans to look at, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I won't be able to do this today. Check out OnlyFans with my 8-year-old nephew here.
We'll get like 3
one
or
of them
4.
he sent was that Russian Ksenia, remember that we
had on
tinfoil? Yeah, and it didn't go too well.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll get some other ones.
But I wonder if that would be a different sort of, like, maybe it would go better in a different environment.
It would be
possibly.
super interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Conspiracy sluts. What do we call it? I can't remember.
Conspiracy sluts, dude. That would be so fucking funny. It would never happen.
No,
no. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah, as soon as we announce the name of the show, it'd be like
it gets canceled.
The early days. Yeah.
Conspiracy sluts.
I'm sorry,
would be so. That'd be so fucking funny, dude.
Today's conspiracy slut is Ksenia.
You know,
it'd work. I think it'd work. If you're a girl out there, if you want to start a name for a podcast, conspiracy sluts.
Yeah, dude, you would crush it. Just on conspiracies and bikinis.
You act like you wouldn't be a guest on that show.
I would be there.
Sam Tripoli, we got conspiracy.
I would go in a
What did we call it? What did we say to call it, though? I can't remember. We had
conspiracy smoke shows.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I thought it was something even a little more insulting than that, but okay.
Dude, how funny is this fucking Mitch McConnell shit? It's so insane.
What do you think is going on with him?
Yeah, he's dead, and they don't want it. They don't want Massey to run for his fucking spot. But it's like, dude, these hoes ain't loyal, bro.
What, did he get ratted out by a woman or something? What do you
No, his wife just took off to China.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's like, oh, finally he's dead. I can go back home.
I mean,
already?
That's so funny. One of the worst humans on the planet, or formerly on the planet, by the way, Mitch McConnell, just a scumbag.
Yeah, pure fucking scumbag.
Boy, that would be great, huh? If he could replace him.
Oh, that'd be so funny, but that would also add to the chaos that they love.
Yeah, it makes you suspicious for sure. It makes me suspicious for sure.
How old is he?
McConnell?
Yeah.
Oh, he's like 85, something like that. 84, 85.
84, yeah, 84. Yeah, you don't have that much time left. Who wants to live past 80?
Anybody who's 80, I would say probably 80. If you're in 80 and good health, you want to live past 80. I mean, my grandma's 90 and killing it, dude. She's that's in perfect health.
I'm getting eaten by bugs right now. Let's go. Enjoy the highlights.
Okay, later. Another reaction video. It's your boy XG Marks the Spot. And for this one, I got a real scumbag. I'm wearing scumbag gear, and this fool is a scumbag. Let's get right into it, baby. Let's go. Check this
Deputies in Virginia arrive to check on a man acting erratically, and the moment they approach the house, he emerges with a loaded gun aimed straight at them.
Bro, that's suicide by cop. That's suicide by cop, and I can already tell he's calling him by his first name. This is a small town. Small town activities, dude. Because this in the hood, suicide by cop.
No! Put it down!
Anthony. I know you, Anthony. Stop it, Anthony.
Mary Jane, is that a real gun? 7-Act, Max. Let me back up now. Got one at gunpoint. Anthony?
Dude, he's yelling at his mom. Why'd you call the cops? Because you got a gun out, homie. What do you mean, why'd you call it? What are you talking about?
Anthony! Put the gun back! Is that a cap gun?
Bro, did you just ask, is that a real gun?
I don't know if that was real or not.
That's a cap gun. 7-Act, Mac. Something shooting at me. Mary Jane, I'm gonna shoot him.
Dude, I'm telling you, he knows her name too. He knows the mom name. Anthony. Mary Jane. I'm telling you, sometimes Life works weird, dog. Mary Jane out here calling.
I'm gonna shoot him.
6 shots.
It is real. 7 ACMAC. My car was shot. Send me back up now. Look at my back window. Look at my back window. Get over there now. Get over there now. Mary Jane, get over there now.
Dude, and the husband's in there? Bro, this family is, dude, typical. I'm not even gonna talk. I'm not even gonna be racist, dog. But what the fuck, dog? The husband's in there. Handle your son, dog. Put that fool in a chokehold. What do you mean? Husband's in there. Did he shoot him? Unless the husband's dead or shot, I don't understand why the cops handle your son. Handle Anthony. Anthony. Anthony.
Get over there now.
What the fuck?
Anthony.
Anthony.
Get.
Shoot that fool.
You're gonna wind up getting shot.
Well, now he's got a machete. Now he's got a machete, dog. Now he's got another weapon. He's got a gun. He's got a machete. Shoot the fool. Tase him. At least tase him.
You better send me to hell. Come on.
Get over here.
You're gonna get shot.
You're gonna get shot. Get down now.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
So do you want to talk about the Tyler Robinson thing?
Sure, Johnny. Yeah, I mean, it's Johnny, let me just say something really quick. And it's something I say all the time. This is the greatest example of non-linear warfare I've ever seen in my life. Both sides are convinced they're right. Every piece of evidence comes out. Both sides says it fits their narrative. No matter what happens, they think it's either a cover up or it's good for their side. It's crazy to me, dude. And you know, my whole opinion is this. I don't know what happened, but if you know, we've studied false flags a lot over the almost 10 years our show's been on.
Yeah, it's called watching the news. They're all false flags.
It's not only just watching the news, but also talking to people who've written books and done deep dives and analyzed all the information that come to the conclusion that this is a patsy. Like, you know, I read the John Lennon book. I love that book. It was like crazy. I loved it. And that book analysis was like, he was a patsy. He was basically programmed. So these people that are just like, oh, it's over. You know, it's like, I don't know, Johnny. It's like this weird thing where like kind of you make a bet on with somebody, right? Yeah. And then they're always quick to say it's over because they know if it goes too long, they're going to lose. So like you know what I'm saying? Like at the simple, oh, it's done. It's done. You're like, well, dude, it hasn't. No, it's done. It's done. Give me my $5, right? You know? So it's like, that's how I feel about the people who are like, oh, Tyler Robinson did it. Dana's one of them too. It's like incredible, dude. So
how could you know for sure though? Without how could you know?
Okay, Johnny, if you go, Sam, if you had to like kind of guess right now, like what it is at the, I don't know how to say least or most, at the least, he could have been there and it went on and they're pinning it on him.
Like
right?
Oswald, right? Yeah.
Like literally, guys, there's a lot of people in the comment section here. If you ever have a moment, you want to watch a really great movie, it's older, but it's great. It's called Arlington Road. I mean, this is the exact plot.
Yeah.
And then you see at the end that like everybody that was manipulating them is on the news acting like they're just students and shit like that. So I think that's at the least. At the most, he's completely being set up. So that's my opinion. I don't think this guy.
Yeah, it's possible he wasn't even there. So some people.
No, 100%. He's getting set up. I mean, Johnny, there's a real part of me that think, you know, we always talk about MK Ultra sex kittens with Erica Kirk and all these elite women. You know, the first lady being a professional hooker, and now she's the first lady. Like, I think everyone at that level is at some point MK Ultra sex kid. They're basically used. I mean, Mitch McConnell's Chinese.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right? The minute he's about to go out, she's like, I'm back in China, dude.
It's the oldest play in the playbook.
Right.
The sex kid.
But Johnny, we're entering a new phase. MK Ultra trans sex kittens.
Well, that's for your Gen Z. That's what you need.
Yeah,
that
100%.
Yeah.
But there's some real things, dude, that you start to go like, because everything's like they got hold on one second, my headphones. They got Twigs DNA on this. They got Twigs DNA on it. It's always Twigs DNA. Then Johnny, do you see the thing? Let me see if I can find it for you. It's not exact, Johnny, but it's like the writing samples. They compared old writing samples of Johnny. You honestly, your thumbnail work is fire right now, dude.
Oh, it's just I've given it over to AI. I'm afraid to say because
hey, dude, it's a tool, Johnny.
It is a tool.
Johnny, will you look this up real quick? This is from Jesse on Fire. Real quick before you show that, quick.
Okay, that's just the DNA thing you're talking about. I don't see
cool.
You don't have it up.
Just be cool, Johnny. Could you just?
If you're going to tell me to take something down, have something up. All right, here we go. You want me to read it or you got it?
No, but here, we'll get into it.
A lot of words.
So this is a big thing, right? Right.
It is.
And so this is Twig's handwriting over here. This is Tyler Robinson's confessional note. They're saying it looks very similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is like, why are they giving this guy immunity? Why does Twig get immunity?
I mean, I know why they'll say, but.
Right. They'll say because she is a key witness.
Yeah, and they want
and he's the one that can put him there. But everything that puts Tyler anywhere is based on Twig.
Yeah, and here's the DNA. What a weird name, by the way, Twigs.
No, that sounds like the most tranny name I've ever seen heard in my life.
Yeah, it's just bizarre.
It probably has to do with her fucking tranny dick.
Here, like item 7, the towel wrapped around the rifle in the woods had DNA samples 95% to Tyler Robinson, but also that Twig's DNA is on there. Screwdriver DNA samples 89% to Robinson, 11% to Twigs, and there was this lady mentioned other DNA items. If you just want a brief snippet of that, this is what that sounds like. If you're not following it closely, this is the pre-trial evidence.
Don't say Lance isn't trans. He's a furry. Aren't they all trans furries?
It's something in that ballpark. I mean. But so if you're not following at home, this is the pre-trial evidentiary hearing, like where they have to convince a judge essentially that there is reason to go to trial, that there's evidence against this person. And it sounds like, it's a no-brainer that they're going to convince the judge because the judge was in there like dramatically reacting. I don't know if you saw that.
Exhibit 7 and 8, that they both had mixtures. Excuse me. Yes, items 7 and 8. In your testing of these items, that they both had mixtures. And you stated, I want to make sure I understood this. You stated, I believe, that the minor contributor was less than 20%, and that it was actually 5%. The ratio is 5% to 95%.
For one of the samples, yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Does that mean the 5% was from Twigs and the 95%, that 95% is assumed from the defendant, the Robinson?
Why is this guy sound like he doesn't know what he's doing?
The statistic, Twigs' DNA profile aligned with the 5% contributor, and Mr. Robinson's DNA profile aligned better with the 95% contributor.
Aligned better.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, bro. The way
the whole thing is bullshit.
Why does this attorney in this massive trial?
Because he doesn't know what to call Tyler. Is he the defendant? Because he's not technically on trial yet.
Yeah, but the guy.
But he is the defendant.
It took him a minute to ask a simple question.
You just tell his head's going through the Rolodex of words.
If you're a latecomer, I am sick. I'm not trying to make my voice sound more masculine.
Johnny's getting transitioned to more of a man.
Yeah, I'm getting a third testicle put in.
Yeah,
people don't know about that.
3 balls.
Yeah, I'm gonna have 3 balls. Some people get theirs chopped. I'm getting another one put in. Get ready. But yeah, so it's weird. And then did you see the judge reacting? He was watching the video and he was like, I mean, he seems like an actor almost, this judge.
Oh my God, just like the Alex Jones trial?
Let me see if this is yes, precisely. Yeah. This is our judge right here. I assume he will be the judge to follow the trial. I'm not totally sure about that, though. It might not be the case. But there's just, I mean, look at him. He looks straight out of casting, dude.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/Sam Tripoli.
Go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.